That was a morning. Ran into a few elk in the timber. And now I'm solo. Solo in the north. Partner had to go home. I like hunting my friends, definitely like helping my friends get the game, etc. But when it comes down to cutting my tags, when I'm solo, it gets done a lot easier, quicker. Obviously, half the sound, half the movement, half the noise, right? And I don't have to worry about anybody else's comfort, and I can go disappear and go up into the mountain all day long. Not worry about if somebody needs to go back to camp or has had enough or have to meet you here, have to meet you there, whatever, right? I do much better hunting on my own when I'm hunting for myself. But usually I can help my friends get their animals, and then once I get them done, then it's game on, right? So anyway, that's what's going on. I received, I think, 4 pages of emails in reply to my request. If anybody had something similar happen with what I had happen the other day, that's going to take some time going through all those, I'll tell you what. So, but I will. And we got up, getting up at average 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then going hard all day, all morning, and then in the evenings, getting to bed around 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I tried to read some yesterday, and it just started knocking me out. But I'll get it done. Anyway, what to do? I think I'm going to go on a big adventure today and see some new country, maybe. So, back to my normal routine. I'm going to get some voices heard. I'm going to get some voices heard, and then I'm going to pack up some fuel, some food, and I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to learn some more country. Now listen to this. You can hear some oil field machinery in the background somewhere. Hear the sound. Hello, my name is Fred. My story happened many years ago in Oregon. Some buddies and I went fishing at Crane Prairie Reservoir. On the way home after a weekend of camping and fishing, we were driving home down Highway 58 towards Eugene. We're following behind our buddies in their Toyota pickup. We ended up getting stuck behind a slower semi-truck. They were up ahead of the semi, and my buddy and I were hoping to pass so we could catch up. I was riding shotgun, just enjoying the ride. I'm looking at all the beautiful scenery, the trees, rivers, and mountains. Well, I started to notice how the semi-truck would pass a patch of small trees, and the wind off of his trailer would practically blow the branches down to the side. As I watched the truck pass this tree, and that tree has wind blowing everything over. One more time. I watched as the truck passed this tree, and that tree, his wind blowing everywhere. Now, this is the part of the story that is etched in my memory forever. As we entered a long, sweeping left turn, the truck passed a small tree that was on the right side of the road. Not an evergreen, but a baby maple, or something with big leaves. As the truck passed, I was waiting to see how hard the wind would blow the tree sideways. Well, as the truck went by, the tree blows sideways, and there, squatting behind the tree, is a Bigfoot. He's exposed and startled. He stands and turns 180 degrees and runs down into the forest. There are drainage systems along the road, and he's running along it. I could only see him from the waist up. I could clearly make out his huge arms, giant thick chest, and his big head that was sort of pointy on top. He was covered in grayish hair and big. I could make out his facial features. He was broadside to me, so I could see his nose. He ran straight up and down like a sprinter, arms pumping. He moved at a speed no man could ever reach. I've hunted and fished many, many years, and I could say without a doubt he could outrun any big game animal. He ran out of sight into the thick forest. I yelled out to my friend, "Did you happen to see that?" But he didn't, because he was driving looking for a place to pass. We finally passed the truck, and at the next pullout, our buddies were parked and waiting for us. We pulled in, and I flung open the door and tell my story. I was all amped up with adrenaline. My buddy, we will call him Joe, then tells us a story about his uncle and a Bigfoot encounter. He says he believes me and wishes he could have seen it. It's something that I can't explain, but it's something I experienced firsthand. I've always believed, but after that day, I know. I hope you share this with others. Tight lines and good hunts. Fred, consider shared, my friend, and welcome to the Club of No Return. All right? Welcome to the club. I got a quick first-hander to share. I may have shared this before. I know I've probably mentioned before. So Gavin, I think I've known Gavin for 15 years or something. He came over to Whistler, British Columbia from Ireland to work, adventure, and ended up staying like so many people do from around the world. And I met him through a friend of mine. He was working at the Pan Pacific Hotel in the Dublin Gate pub downstairs where my friend managed the restaurant for years. And he started working for me part-time. That's how we met. And we've always been close friends for many years now. Anyway, he doesn't have an interest in this topic at all, right? He doesn't really run in outdoor circles. Outdoor for me meaning, hikers, hunters, fishermen, anglers. He has friends. They do mountaineering, but it's not hard in Whistler. He's surrounded by mountains. There's hiking trails everywhere. There's hundreds of people everywhere all the time in all those mountains. He's not into the remote circle of people, right? What am I trying to say? He just doesn't run in circles that would typically have these experiences or even talk about it. So keep that in mind. And I remember a handful of years ago, he mentioned something about going for a hike or a run one time because he's always been fit, worked out, trains boxing. He's boxed all through his childhood and his younger years in Ireland, and still heavily involved in the boxing gym in Whistler, etc. So he stays fit. Now he's getting into mountaineering. Anyway, he's always going on runs, and he went for a run up a place called the Sioux Valley, a road that dumps into the Sioux Valley. This is north of Whistler, and very near where I hunt a lot in the past. And I remember him telling me something about being scared or freaked out one time running by these big cedar trees, big patch of cedar, original first growth forest. And I asked him again yesterday. We were walking out on the trail last night, and I was trying to explain to him the first time I seen one of these beings. And I said it was exactly like right now. It's early September, same night, same sky, same time of day. And you could see the perfect outline of the trees on either side of the tight trail we were on. And I picked one that was about the same distance, same angle. I said it was right there looking at me. You could see this. I could see the crisp outline. He's like, yeah. And he got kind of freaked out, told him the whole story again. And he said, you never told me that story. And I go, I haven't? No way. And he's getting a little wide-eyed, and then he got into the topic. He goes, well, I go, remember you told me that you got kind of freaked out jogging at that time? You said you heard something paralleling you or something? He goes, yeah. I go, what happened? And he told me, and remember, he doesn't follow this channel. He doesn't follow this topic. He doesn't know of the patterns that we know about, okay? He hasn't a clue. And he goes, it was really odd. He said it was a lot quieter than he said he really noticed it was quieter than it should be. He said he got a very uneasy feeling like something really bad was going to happen. And he also had he said, I just kept hearing these weird noises. He's got that heavy Irish accent that I can't mimic an Irish accent. And he goes, I just kept hearing these weird noises that shouldn't have been there. And I'm listening to him talking, and I go back, what kind of noises? What kind of noise did you hear? I don't know how to describe it. It's something, he says, almost like a grunt. Like a grunt. Grunting. I'm like, okay. How far away? He goes, well, that's the weird thing. It seemed like it should have been like 20 feet away from me, but there's nothing there. There you go. Right? So now we got a guy directly repeating word for word a bunch of common patterns of experiences people have and report here. And he is not connected to this channel, doesn't watch the channel, he's not into the topic, and listen to what he just came out of his mouth, right? Deadly, eerily quiet, felt uncomfortable, a little bit of dread, like something really bad was going to happen, and then he started hearing grunting, right beside him, and he couldn't see anything. What's up with that, right? And then he went on to add in, so now he is finally a Whistler firefighter, which he worked very hard to become a firefighter over the years. And now he's working in Whistler, and he's talking to, he didn't tell me who it was. I think he did tell me his name, but I'm not, a bunch of my friends are those firefighters. captain, or the head dude is one of my best friends. So I know a bunch of the firefighters over the years living there. And then, I don't know the name of this one he mentioned. And he lives out in an area called Birkin. Birkin is an area where a friend of mine's son saw one standing on the side of the road, drove by it. It freaked him out so bad he was frickin' bawling. Said it was standing on the low side of the road, it down in the ditch, and towered over his truck still in the night. So anyway, he told me that, because a lot of the guys at the fire hall bring up this topic, they know that Gavin's pretty tight with me and my other buddy Mitch, and excuse me though sometimes. He said he named a few of the guys that I know that asked him about the topic. You know, Sasquatch stuff that Steve talks about, do you believe in that shit? But one firefighter took him aside and said, hey, you know what happened to me? He lives out in an area called Birkin, and he said that they were ski touring, I think, or sledding. There's a lot of cabins in the mountains around there, in the coastal mountains of British Columbia, where people ski tour to. Ski touring is a big thing. They put on their backpacks and ski into the middle of nowhere and climb mountains and ski down them and snowmobile to these cabins. They said they're staying in this cabin, him and his buddy, and he said good-sized rocks kept on hitting the roof and the walls of the cabin all night long. So there you go. There's a couple of more stories directly came to me from somebody that I know very well. And without really asking about it, but it should be an example to everyone who is interested in this topic more, is that it's tough to find out about these things without asking, unfortunately. You're not going to find the truth on mainstream. It's not going to happen. Obviously, the government is corrupt as F. You're not going to find out anything from them. So you have to find out from the people if you have an honest curiosity on the topic, all right? You are not going to learn anything unless you talk to people, period, or experience it for yourself. But so I strongly suggest, if you do have that curiosity, or you want to, even if you want to somehow back up what I'm trying to share with you, all you have to do is square up with somebody, look them square in the eye. Don't speak to them with a smirk or a comical tone. Just straight up, hey man, you ever have anything weird happen, like in the woods or anywhere? Or see something weird that possibly shouldn't even be real, or you ever have anything real weird happen? And if they have, they'll spill. But if you go, obviously, hey, you ever seen a Bigfoot or anything? They're not going to say shit. I'm babbling, I'm kind of tired. I hope I'm making sense. I'm just encouraging people to talk to each other, all right? Talk to each other with respect. It's the only way you're going to learn. What do we got here? This is titled, Steve, I've had several incidents over the last 20 years or so on this particular 900-plus acre farm/ranch that I hunt 10 to 15 minutes outside of Big Rapids, Michigan. College town, about 25,000. Ferris State Bulldogs. Go Dogs. I've known for years about the existence of Sasquatch, but I've always tried to keep it out of the forefront of my thought process, as I am an avid archery hunter. For years, I would enjoy abundant deer harvests and love spending hours in the woods scouting and setting up new stands to hunt in the fall. On occasions, my sixth sense would go into overdrive while out scouting certain sections of this property. I would dismiss it as an overactive imagination and carry on with my mission. Multiple times while on stand, I would hear loud tree knocks from various points that surrounded me, but never thought too much into them, as I would just dismiss those as natural sounds due to limbs clanking, banging, or busting. Rank and stagnant odors would overwhelm my area from time to time, and again, I'd also dismiss these foul smells as possible black bear odors, as I've heard they stink and are quite abundant in our area. On one occasion, while walking into my stand, I heard what sounded like a rock skipping through the treetops, hitting up high and falling to the ground. I glanced in the general direction of the sound and didn't see anything. As I continued walking, I heard the same sound again, but this time it was closer. And as I looked towards the sound, I caught the movement of a 2 to 3 inch diameter rock falling out of the tree in which it had just impacted. And no shit, I walked up to the rock, picked it up, and stared up the tree, saying to myself, what the F? Squirrels are carrying these big rocks up What the F are the squirrels carrying these big rocks up the trees for? Can you see the pattern here? Weird shit happens and I dismiss it, as I am 45 years young and don't want to believe I have to deal with a Sasquatch/paranormal entity on the land of which I hunt. But the last incident finally got my attention, and I now acknowledge the fact that I could possibly be dealing with one of these beings. I, along with my son, was heading out of the woods in a well-lit full moon night about an hour after dark. No flashlights needed kind of night. My son and I, together, had a 1/2 mile walk back to our vehicle, up this easily traversable stretch of creek bottom that lied at the foot of a large rolling hardwood hills and deep cutting ravines that extended to the creek's edge. We had tag teamed a specific area that night, so we had sat pretty close in proximity to one another and had met up at dark to walk out together and talk of our sit. Keep in mind that this is the same area that I've experienced tree knocks, rocks being thrown, and smells that could curl your toenails. We had covered the 1/2 mile hike back to our origins and were now standing outside of our vehicle offloading our gear into the back seat. It was so dark. It was dark, so I had reached into the car and fired the engine while still standing outside of it, as to shed some ambient light on our surrounding. I turned my back to the car and was in the process of evacuating my bladder when I heard what I thought was my son cranking the radio up in the car as loud as he could. I wheeled my head over my shoulder to look at him without pissing on myself, and when I did, I locked eyes with my son, who stood on the other side of the car. The fear that I seen in his eyes as he stood with his jaw open wide said it all. He had not entered the car and turned up the radio. It was a scream/yell that had radiated from the creek bottom, of which we had just exited minutes before. "Hey!" is what it bellowed. It lasted 10 or 15 seconds and was as loud as any music concert I've ever attended. See, that's crazy. That description is nonstop, that description of how loud these sounds are. The octave that it produced started low and became increasingly higher as it carried out the note, but still ended pretty low. After some research, we came across something known as the Ohio Holler. This sounded a lot like this and is thought to be of Sasquatch origins. Keep in mind, I'm 6 foot, 230. My son's 6'2" and about 260. We're both armed with bows, knives, and I had a .45 XDS Springfield on my side. I, as well, my son, jumped into the car, slammed the doors shut, and peeled out like Bo and Luke Duke being chased by Roscoe P. Coltrane and Boss Hogg. We carried all corners well as dirt flew from our tires all the way out to the paved road. Normally, we travel this half-dirt 2-track at about 10 miles per hour. That night, we may or may not have hit 50 miles per hour. We anxiously and excitedly talked of our experience together all the way back home. We spent hundreds upon hundreds of hours in the woods and have hunted almost everything possible to hunt in our area and have never heard any form of vocalization like this before. We rarely hunt this property anymore and never alone. Matter of fact, the last time I sat in this area was 2 rifle seasons ago, and I heard a larger tree fall over on a windless afternoon. I, along with my .270 Winchester, retreated back to the truck and basically called it quits for the day. Take these occurrences as you will, but if 2 + 2 + 2 = 6, then I would say that tree knocks plus thrown rocks plus smells plus yells plus and tree falls equals Bigfoot. If you share my experience, feel free to use my name, as I am sure others in my area would be interested in swapping stories, as to help validate their own personal experiences. My brother, at the age of 15, had an actual visual encounter with one of these beings back in '83, about 20 minutes north of where my experience happened. He, along with a cousin, seen one on all fours, rooting around the ground alongside some railroad tracks out in the sticks. When it seen them, it stood up on 2 legs and ran down an embankment towards the Muskegon River and was out of sight. Anyhow, that's another story on its own, and maybe he will choose to share that with you one day. My cousin, on the other hand, doesn't acknowledge it and denies it ever happened. Thanks again, Steve. Stay safe and carry on, my man. Thanks again, Toby Smith. It's Toby's... Sorry, man. Thanks again, Toby Smith. P.S. I still hunt avidly and refuse to be run out of the woods by whatever these creatures are, but I do tend to listen to my gut and sixth sense a little more these days. Good, man. Welcome to the club. And that's good news. I like to encourage as many people as I can to get in tune with their sixth sense, their intuition, their gut instincts, whatever you want to call it, because if we all were in tune with it intimately like we should be, there'd be a whole lot less bullshit going on in society, and we wouldn't have criminals running society, right? If everybody would just get in tune and put an end to the bullshit. But anyways, I'm babbling. You might want to maybe possibly send this video to your cousin, all right? Obviously, he's freaked out, created a block, he can't deal. Maybe he doesn't even go hunting, go in the woods anymore. Who knows? But if that moment's having a negative impact on him, maybe forward him this email, urge him to listen to it just once. He doesn't have to reply to you or anything. Just listen to it, and then have a look around the channel some more and see just how many people are here that knows the truth. And he's not kook, and he's not going to be ridiculed, and he shouldn't be ashamed of what he saw, what he knows, and didn't ask for, right? Nobody asked for this shit, but it's our reality now. Cat's out of the bag. There's no getting out of it. You can't sweep the truth under the carpet and hide it forever. You can try. Put your head in a hole in the sand. Might work for some, but it's not working for a lot of us, right? All right. Who's next? Who's listening to me? Around me. Hey Steve, my name is James and I live in Southwest Virginia. About 6 years ago, me and my brother were leaving out of the woods at dark after we'd been bow hunting. We're walking down a gas cut with woods on both sides. No leaves, still dirt and very fine grass. To our left, just inside the woods, I heard footsteps, but not like a deer. It was like ours would be if we were in the woods as well. I noticed them and thought it was my own footsteps. So I stopped us, and the footsteps stopped a step after we did. I kind of brushed it off, and we took back off. I then heard them again, and it stopped us again, and now my brother hears it as well. Same thing, it was a step or so behind us, but it stops immediately. That happened one more time, a total of 3 times, and we booked it until we got to the fence. My brother had it happen to him one time afterwards. I was assumed it could have been the elusive big cat everyone claims to run our mountains, but after looking into these damn things, I'm not so sure. I didn't see it. It was dark and it sounded about 30 to 35 yards away, just inside the woods. I didn't see it. It was dark and it sounded about 30 to 35 yards away, just inside the woods. You don't have to share it. You don't have to share it where I never seen it, and I debated even wasting your time with it, but it's the one thing in 20 years of hunting that I can't explain. Anyway, thanks for all you do, Steve. You're a safe haven and a destroyer of the douchebags, and many people are glad we have you. Thanks, James. P.S. It is private land, and no way it was another person or hunter, just us. Okay, James, appreciate the kind words, man. I kind of like that title. Destroyer of the douchebags. I would wear that with absolute pride, and if we could have a badge, I'd wear my badge everywhere. And it's always worthy, James. Yeah, everything is worthy here, man. All right? And that goes for everybody out there. Everything is worthy. We want to hear it all. It's very, very important. Like I said, I think I said last week, we don't rate people's experiences or knowledge, right? Some people say, oh, they're good. I really enjoyed listening to that one. We're not doing this for that shit. We're doing this for all the people who've experienced this shit, all the people who know that we're being misled and lied to, and all the people who want the true answers. So yeah, man, your email counts big time. Appreciate your time, buddy. And I'm glad you're still hunting. Here's another one. Hi, Steve. Oh, hold on. Sorry it took so long between emails. Work has been busy. I guess I should be thankful of that, especially during this COVID-19 thing. Who are we talking to here? I don't know. Let's read it. Anyway, my second encounter took place in the National Forest in northern Wisconsin during the 1983 deer bow hunting season. It was early October. I was hunting with 3 of my cousins in a very remote area. We'd take an old logging road that was no longer kept up to where we hunted. My younger cousin would get dropped off first to go to his stand. Then about a mile further down, I would get dropped off to head into my stand. My other 2 cousins hunted about a quarter mile, half a mile further down the road to the left. They were both on a steep ridge, and as the crow flies, were probably only 100 yards apart, a few hundred yards apart. My stand was about a half a mile off the logging road to the right, and to get there I had to walk 100 yards or so along the bottom of a ridge line. On this particular afternoon hunt, for some reason, everything felt perfect. We all felt like someone was going to get their buck. After I got dropped off, it took me a few minutes to get my bow ready, mosquito netting on, and then I headed to my stand. I got about 3/4 past the ridge, which was to my left, and I heard a very deep guttural growl from my left. It sounded like it was damn near on top of me. Kind of hard to explain. The first thing I did was look up in the trees on the ridge. I know I probably had a half-cocked smile on my face because the first thing I thought was that it was my other cousins, even though they would have had to fly through the woods to get there before me. I think I quickly realized that because after I looked up and didn't see anything, every hair on my body was standing up, and then I heard it again, and quickly thought maybe a wolf had a den on the side of the ridge. Again, I looked for signs of a den and didn't see anything. I did get to my stand that day, but the woods didn't feel right. Something was off, so I headed out to the logging road. I was at the logging road a good 45 minutes before dark, and this is normally prime time to be in your stand. The funny thing is, I wasn't there 10 minutes before my 2 older cousins came driving up. They picked me up, and when we got to my younger cousin, he was also waiting on the logging road. We didn't do much talking, other than the normal, "See anything?" But everyone just responded, "Nah, I didn't see anything." I know they all felt the same thing I felt in the woods that day, and who knows? They could have had encounters of their own, but none of us talked about it. And this is my second experience. I can't say for sure what it was, but I know I heard the same type of growl again years later on one of blank's YouTube videos. My third strange experience was not far from where I currently live. I bow hunt on my father-in-law's land outside of Hortonville, Wyoming, just off the Wolf River. I'm the only one that bow hunts the property. My in-laws gun hunt only. One afternoon on my way to my stand, I noticed a log was stuck into the ground on the trail to my stand, leaning enough to make it cumbersome to try and walk around. It was probably 8 to 10 inches in diameter, but the heavier end was stuck a good 1.5 feet into the ground. There wasn't any trees around with broken limbs, so I don't know how it got there. But if something put it there, it had to have been big and powerful to drive that deep into the ground. That same season as in my stand and heard wood knocks, first the opposite side of the Wolf River, then 3 knocks back from my side of the river. Can't say for sure what it was, but 2017 was the worst deer season we've ever had. I didn't see anything bow hunting. And our group didn't get anything during the gun season either, and we always had plenty of deer as long as I can remember. In fact, 2018 and 19 were back to normal, and I'm hoping for the same this year. My second and third encounters took longer than I thought, but I did promise to provide my theory on these beings, so here it goes. I believe these beings were here before us. I believe in creation, God, but probably differently than most would view our Creator. I believe our Creator is what many refer to as aliens. I believe we were made by these, quote, aliens, end quote, mixing their own DNA with these Bigfoot beings. Wouldn't the first attempt look kind of like a hairy caveman or Neanderthal and gradually look more and more like us with each attempt? Kind of hard for most people to swallow, but for me it's simple. I almost feel like God would say, quote, "What took you so long to figure that out?" End quote. There are probably a lot of people that would call me crazy or a blasphemer, or whatever term they use to belittle someone who doesn't follow the mainstream beliefs. It doesn't matter to me what God looks like. I still believe in the Son of God. So I know I'll be okay. And there you have it. Thanks for listening, Doug. Thanks for typing it out, Doug. Thanks for your time, man. Time's valuable. Time given to others is a very valuable gift as far as I'm concerned. Without a doubt. And everybody's going to have their own theories, ideas, and we want to hear all of them. And nobody gets belittled or demeaned here. Maybe possibly in the comment section, because I don't think it's policed by anybody. But whatever. That's the way the internet goes, right? Now, I got to get on with my day. I'm going on adventure. I'm going to go see some new country. I love seeing new country. So I'm going to pack up some more fuel, some more food, some stuff I might need to sleep overnight in the bush if I have to, and carry on my way. And who knows, maybe I'll do a live from camp tonight in the dark. We can all be spooked out together. I don't know, we'll see. But hopefully no trees start getting pushed down around me tonight. I've had that happen a couple years ago, 3 years ago. I was about 50 miles south of here and by myself, or went up by myself to go grab an elk. And same area that Gavin heard the tree knocks, and all the trees were pulled out of the ground and broken off and stacked up and ground flat. Blah, blah. You know, my first night there, I think about 6 or 8 trees came down across the creek from me, from my camp where I was camped, and there was no wind, no rain, no nothing. Just trees kept falling down every once in a while. 6 or 8 of them, I think. And that big tree fell down across the way here, a big one, first night here. Do I blame that on anything odd? No, I don't. I'm just saying, I don't need it happening here tonight. I want to enjoy my time. I want to see some more country. I want to relax. And I want to get my goal smashed. And I need to get that elk meat in my freezer. That is my absolute #1 priority right now. So I'll be back shortly. And I'll read a bunch of those emails, all you generous people who wrote in replies to my knife incident. I'll try to get those read up ASAP too. Share my story at howtohunt.com. And for all those interested, Sarah has a whole pile of brand new stuff available in her store. She got it. I don't know if she's listed or not, but I'll put the link down below as usual. And you can have a look at that, and I'll be back shortly.